Yes, it's a sign of this man. That's why he introduced that there. On a basis, there we were done. They got the best option.
Well, or today, I'm only allowed 3 subs.
Alex is the one, isn't it?
Yeah, Alex is the one, but I'm only allowed 3 subs.
Right.
So making you a sub, so you can come. I had to take one of the existing subs there.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of the Northern Planning Committee. I am Councillor Paul Wynn, Chairman of the committee. We're not expecting a fire drill today. In the event of an alarm sounding, please leave the building and gather at the front of the building. I'm obliged to inform you that this is a meeting that's being live streamed and recorded. But I also ask you please to ensure that mobile phones are switched off and to ensure the volumes on your laptop is muted. To ensure that the members of this committee and all the points raised by the public speakers are properly heard, I must advise you that I am not tolerating any disruptive behaviour. This is a meeting held in public, not a public meeting. If such behaviour takes place and persists, I will adjourn the meeting. Members should ensure that they are present throughout the meeting, as you cannot vote on any item if you have not heard all the debate. The members and officers introduce themselves each time before they speak, so those listening can speak. I shall now ask members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves. Nat, we'd like to start, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Nat Green, Quarry and Coaten. Julian Dean, Porter.
Ted Clark, Republic of Ashton.
Steve Charnley, Whittington. Steve Davenport, St Martin's, Duddleston and Duddleston Heath.
Councillor Jeff Elner, Ellesmere, Urban. Edward Towers, substituting for Alex Wagner today as representing Wem Rural and Wicks.
Roger Evans, London.
Vincent Lanham-Alec, Vice Chair.
Emma Green, Principal Enforcement Officer. Firearms at Robinson and Watson.
Pet Molyneux, Manager.
Jim Brown, Solicitor. Emily Marshall, Committee Officer.
Thank you very much.
Right, item 1, apologies for absence. Councillor Joyce Barrett, substituted by Steve Davenport. Councillor Alex Wagner, substituted by Edward Towers. Item 2, to confirm the minutes from the meeting held on the 9th of May 2024 and the 14th of May 2024. Proposal, please. Thank you, Roger. Seconder. Thank you, Vince. Public questions, none received. Have we got any disclosable pecuniary interests?
Yes, item 6, I have to leave because I've got a personal prejudicial interest because this is my own home.
Right, okay, moving on to
You want us to vote yes?
right, item 5, Springfield Road, Shrewsbury, Shropshire, SW30, etc. Erection of replacement dwelling and carport following demolition of existing dwelling and outbuildings. Sarah, I believe you are presenting.
Thank you. Just as an update to this, it was noted that in the report, in the officer's report, the local members' comments were considered correctly. So I'd just like to summarise the local member called in the application to committee as he believed the application complied with Shropshire Council policy and that the development was in line with other properties of the nature around Shropshire which had been granted approval, and that the development would enhance the succession requirement of the planning for local farming business and hospitality business. Also, the agent acting on behalf of the applicants had queried the figures inserted into the officer's report. Therefore, I have remeasured the existing building and proposed dwelling externally So the external measurement of the existing bungalow is 138 square metres. The proposed dwelling is 277 square metres, and the proposed dwelling, including the garage and link, would be 358 square metres, and therefore it would be a 99% increase of from the existing dwelling to the proposed dwelling, and the proposed dwelling, including the garage, would result in a 158% increase. So on the presentation, you can see the existing bungalow, and in the background, you can see the existing outbuilding. And here's the rear of the bungalow. And here's a location plan demonstrating the location of the existing bungalow and the outbuilding. And again, this is the plan that has been supplied by the agent. And here is the proposed location plan, and in red you can see, in the hatch red area, you can see the existing bungalow and the outbuilding. Yeah, in relation to the proposed. Here is the proposed ground floor plan, and also including the garage and the link. And here is then showing the first floor plan. And here is the floor area for the existing bungalow and the proposed elevations. Yeah, proposed elevation.
And point out.
Yeah, as you can see, the two-storey element, and then the remainder of it being a single storey. And again, showing the other two proposed elevations, you can see the two-storey elements in the single storey. And again, photographs of the existing site. And this is the existing outbuilding the site. I note that the agent has said that the outbuilding is domestic. However, as you can see outlined in paragraph 6.1.6 of the officer's report for the site history, the dwelling was approved on application number 64/1498 for the erection of a farm dwelling on site of an existing small holding cottage and formation of vehicular access to the rear road, and this was granted on the 14th of May 1964. And it's considered that this is an outbuilding that would have supported that small holding.
Side elevation.
And you can see the side elevation, which is then open to the agricultural field and the rear of the site. And again, showing the field adjacent to the site.
Anything else?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So to conclude, as per the officer report, it's considered that the design and scale does not satisfy the SAMDEP policy MD7A and the type and affordability housing SPD. Therefore, it's considered the proposed development is contrary to policy CX6, CS17, ND2 and ND13, and therefore the recommendation is of refusal.
Thank you, Zara. We have two speakers on this application. First, we've got Councillor Ed Potty. If that be forward, please, Ed. We have 5 minutes, Ed. Pot's there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, committee, for having me here today. It's great to be back. I think the second time in a row, which is wonderful. I'm here to speak in support of this. I won't keep you long. I'm going to talk about the nature of the character of the area on the 458 on the way to Welshpool from Churncut is the road, and about the circumstances of which this family, the businesses that are involved, are important to the local community, And I think you'll have seen from the pictures, there is nothing really noteworthy of the 1960s bungalow, which isn't efficient in terms of energy. And also the fact that locally there have been a number of examples of this sort of post-war poor construction having been replaced with much more usable and up-to-date buildings throughout the parish of Alderbury and Cardiston. The particularly supportive of this because this is a family who run an agricultural business, a hospitality business, connected to that as part of their farm diversification. There are 3 generations existing within the parish, of the 3rd generation being their children who are of adult age themselves, 2 of which are heavily involved in the enterprises associated with the with either the agriculture or a vineyard, which is very close by. Both of those businesses require, and the nature of the family business requires people to live nearby because of agriculture. Also, the vineyard, if there's frost, they have to be out all night to heat the vines to prevent them frost catching them. And it's because people are living longer. I understand policies within Soundep, but my point is I'd like to try and see within my communities for them to remain vibrant, that families and people associated with local businesses and into the community are able to stay and live and work within those communities. People are living longer. And again, I think policy needs to sort of reflect that. We have 3 generations here existing within the parish, and the children are growing up and starting out and with their own enterprises. And this would enable the succession planning for the agricultural side of the business to move forward, which is incredibly important in agriculture when we have the average age of a farmer, which is significantly above where it should be in terms of vibrancy and driving things forward. This is a application that I think is noteworthy in terms of its design in comparison to what it is replacing. The nature of the windmill through to Wattlesborough, the sort of the Roughton area, is a very mixed design in terms of buildings. So the old Cardiston stone, which I believe is figuring in the plans, which is important. But there are properties that have been built from almost every period. This is an area that's had development from pre-war right through to present day, with a number of new buildings in the sort of the late 90s, early noughties along that road. There is no detrimental impact in terms of on the environment around in terms of visibility. It will enhance the area, particularly as you come over Windmill Bank and down the 458. I haven't got much more to say, and I would just ask the committee to look favourably upon this application to enable a local family to remain within the community, to enable succession planning, and for the few businesses that we have in my area to be able to flourish and thrive, which is extremely important in rural Shropshire. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Right, we have the agent now, Mr. Mike Lloyd. Like to come forward, please. You have 3 minutes. Would you like a 30-second warning on your right?
I'm okay, thanks, James. Thank you, Chair and Committee. I'm Mike Lloyd from Bury, speaking on behalf of the applicants. The proposal is the replacement of an existing dwelling and outbuilding with a new dwelling and a carport. Officers' concerns obviously relate to size, mass and design of the proposal. Whilst design can be somewhat of a subjective matter, I hope it's evident from the photos that the existing bungalow and outbuilding are of no architectural or historic significance and make no meaningful contribution to the character and appearance of the local area. Therefore, rather than replicate the existing development, the applicants have commissioned an architect to provide a design solution for the site with a far more positive contribution to the area. Whilst we've raised issues with the inaccuracy of the figures quoted in section 1.4 of the officer report, and I note the officer's comments in that regard earlier, we do acknowledge that the proposed dwelling is significantly larger than the existing dwelling on the site. However, the principle of accepting replacement dwellings up to the size that can be achieved through permitted development rights has long been accepted by the council, and the proposed dwellings floor area is therefore equivalent to that which could be achieved through permitted development extensions to the existing dwelling. The proposal also seeks the replacement of the existing outbuilding on the site with a proposed carport. The proposed carport is significantly smaller than the existing outbuilding, so overall, the proposal results in a reduction in floor space of approximately 72 metres squared. The proposal does include a two-storey element, which is higher than the existing bungalow by approximately 1 metre. However, this increase enables the proposal to reflect the fact that the area is characterised by two-storey dwellings, the existing bungalow being the only one single-storey dwelling in the area. It's accepted that the proposal does not sit directly over the existing development's footprint. However, it overlaps and predominantly lies within the overall extent of existing buildings on the site. In conclusion, during the construction, the proposal represents a significant investment and source of employment for the local construction industry. It will make a positive impact on the character and appearance of the local area, but ultimately it will provide a lifetime home for local people, enabling them to retire from their farm, but remain on hand to support their son who will take over the farm, and to support their daughters who run the local vineyard enterprise. I therefore consider it unsurprising that the proposal has gained significant support from the local community. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Well signed. Okay, I'll open up to the floor. Thank you, Nat.
Thanks, Chair. Okay, we heard from the local member. That seemed to suggest that the arguments being put forward would be those for an agricultural workers dwelling. In that it was being argued that this was a site that was needed for the various agricultural businesses that they are involved in, but unfortunately that isn't actually the application in front of us. So the second point, and the agent then made the point about the fact that the area is no greater than they said for the entire agricultural for the entire site. But it would appear from the last planning permission that the site was in fact an agricultural smallholding. And I have great sympathy with people trying to have properties in the area. I just feel that this should be something that really needs to be reworked. Go back and have another thought about this. Because I don't think anyone disagrees with the principle of building a structure on that site. It's just in the manner in which it is being presented. Perhaps there is a strong argument for an agricultural workers dwelling, but it needs to be made formally and not necessarily just at this stage. So while I have a lot of sympathy with them, I'm not going to support this application.
Thank you, Nat. Julian?
Thank you. First of all, just with regard to Councillor Potter's point, so in your call-in letter, you argued that this was compliant with policy. You didn't really use that argument this time. It was much more about the case for the family, which I sympathise. I specifically sympathise with the idea that as people get older and as we have more multiple generations, and that puts pressure on existing housing in rural areas. I can quite understand that point. But you didn't stand by your previous comments about policy, and I quite get why, because I think Sarah's report is absolutely very clear that this does not comply with policy, and I understand policy in terms of trying to avoid a sort of a mission creep towards more large high value properties, and thereby reducing the number of affordable homes in rural areas. So I think that policy has value in those terms and needs to be supported. So similarly, I won't be supporting this application. However, I do have a question about this issue around permitted development, and also I do think that people are playing fast and loose with the the size of the thing. I mean, clearly it's a much more substantial dwelling than the one that is there currently. Just a question really to officers about this permitted development thing. The idea that if it's been done with extension, they could have had just as big a footprint. And then the final point, just to say that that Ed also argued that in terms of the efficiency and energy efficiency of the building, but none of us are saying that this building could not be replaced with something which was more modern and more efficient and possibly provided a little bit more accommodation, but without it moving outside the area of workers' dwelling, affordable home, which is what we're trying to defend, I think.
Thank you, Jim. Could you just go to the officers about permitted development? Could you make comment on that, please?
Okay, thank you. But first of all, officers, as is clear in the report, have no objection to the principle of a replacement dwelling on this site. The applicants do have permitted development rights in relationship to the current dwelling, and they're quite entitled to use those permitted development rights. However, as pointed out in inspectors' decisions, this is not what's being applied for here. It's a replacement dwelling for the existing on site. And in officers' opinion, this is substantially larger in scale and mass to what is there. And in officers' opinion, completely contrary to your policies and in particular, your supplementary planning document in relationship to replacement dwellings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we saying from your comments that if this was an application for an entirely new dwelling, it would be a different kettle of fish? It wouldn't go against policy then.
It's a dwelling in open countryside, and therefore you would normally we wouldn't support a dwelling at this location. But because there's an existing dwelling on site, it's assessed in relationship to a replacement dwelling.
Understand, thank you.
And the SPD is very clear on that.
Understand that.
Steve?
Just looking at the site plan here, and I mean, it's not overlooking anything, and find it difficult to accept that there's not a need from the member. It was good to hear that they're investing in the countryside and wanting to run their businesses, expanding their businesses. And I'd have to agree with him that why not keep all the family in the countryside and where they're surrounded by their work. And we should generally be supporting a lot of other building within the countryside, whether affordable or expanding businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I'll make a comment actually. Sorry, I put my name there. But yeah, I think listening to everybody, we're not debating whether it should be a building there or a replacement building. The issue is the size.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% bigger. That's the issue. Just want to get that across. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. It's the settlement. In the officer's report, it says Rowton is a dispersed settlement. And then there's building in open countryside. If it's a dispersed settlement, what do you mean by dispersed settlement as far as this application is concerned? So would the officer consider it to be part of the dispersed settlement or not? Because I think that's an important point, both now and in any future application, if it is decided to take it another way.
Just to clarify, I consider that this site is in the open countryside, not within the dispersed settlement of Rowton. That's your question.
Vince?
Thanks, Chair. It is an interesting one, this one. I think a relatively difficult one. Essentially what we're looking at here, what we understand is that the original house was allowed in 1964 as a dwelling to support people choosing the small holding. And I get that there aren't many small holdings left and everything else. But that dwelling wouldn't have been allowed if it hadn't been in support of a farm, a small farm. For me, and I think I'm inclined to agree with Councillor Nat Green, our first speaker, I would welcome an application actually on the application area where the existing property is, which for me could have been perhaps up to sort of 40–50% bigger. which for a couple, as the local member have said, that are retiring and wish to support their children in the businesses that they're running, because essentially what they're saying is this is going to be a dwelling for two people. Maybe there's dozens of grandchildren and whatnot, I don't know, but obviously that's not so much of an issue because they would live locally, as we've heard that their children do. For me, this almost becomes, because it's so far off of the footprint of the existing dwelling, it in effect becomes an application for a new build in open countryside.
That's what I'm saying.
And as much as I would love to support it, we have to keep an eye on policy. And I think, as Councillor Davenport said, there's lots of good reasons for allowing more building and supporting local industry, which is predominantly farming. I don't think this is the right application before us. I think it's too big. It isn't reflective of what the original consent was, which was given an open countryside to support the farm. I don't think I'm going to be supporting this for that reason. It is in effect virtually a new build in open countryside.
Anybody else indicating? So I check on.
Thank you, Chairman. Listen to the arguments. I look at it and I'm always going to support it, but I understand some of the arguments that's been put. So I think maybe reluctantly I'm going to vote against it, but I would hope we may see a replacement application come forward in the very near future, maybe taking on some of the comments around the table. So it isn't it is a refusal, but with expectation that it could be looked at again in the near future.
Agree with you entirely.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You're right, Councillor Hunt, is a bit of a difficult one, this. I suppose that's why it's come to committee. I have a lot of sympathy with all that's been said, and Councillor Potter made some very valuable points, I think. Nat Green, I think, started with, I'm thinking really, that this is a large build. I would endorse everything that helps, as Councillor Davenport said, the encouragement of the economy in the countryside and families living together and support each other and not having to go and look elsewhere for accommodation when they get older. The whole thing is good. It's just the size, I think, that gets to me. And it is, as you say, coming to open countryside. If it were to be smaller, this is a question for the planning officer really, if it was to be smaller and at this stage, and they came again with an extension in mind later on, that'd be more acceptable to you? Or is the whole principle of developing in the open countryside paramount?
We would support a replacement dwelling, and there is scope for it to be slightly larger than the dwelling that is currently there. However, it's the scale that they're currently proposing that we're against. Yeah, we could consider something between maybe like Councillor Vince Hunt said, something to 40–50%. I think our policies could support. However, the current proposal is 100% larger than that's existing.
Yes. So if they came with a smaller application, it's hypothetical, I suppose, and that was agreed because you said it looks more sensible to you, and then they decided in the fullness of time that actually it wasn't large enough for their family's needs, they could come back again. That could be extended, could it, to meet the size it's more like it is now.
Different applications.
Yeah, I'll answer that, Councillor. We have to look at each application on its merits and the information at the time. As you'll be aware from the planning history, this is the replacement dwelling for a previous agricultural building on the site. I believe the dwelling, looking at the planning history in the archives, that the previous dwelling was set further back alongside what is now classed as the ag building. As it happens, we've had extensive discussions with the applicants on this one, including myself. I've been on site here with the case officer, and we tried to put to them what you've suggested here today about a smaller dwelling. We thought we were getting somewhere, but then they went for something larger, and so we thought it best bring it to committee for you all to show consideration to it. Thank you.
Julie.
I propose that the committee supports the officer's recommendations and rejects the application.
I'll
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, are we going to have a recording vote? Yeah. Please.
Okay, so we've got a proposal to accept the officer recommendation for refusal and a seconder. If you can indicate whether you're voting for or against, please. Gary Burchett. Oh no, sorry, he's not here. Steve Davenport.
Against the officer's recommendation.
So you're going for the proposal?
Yeah.
Steve Chalmley.
Support the proposal.
Ted Clark.
I'm totally confused. No, I support the officer's recommendation.
Jeff Elner.
Against it.
Julian Dean.
Support the officer's proposal.
Roger Evans.
Support the officer's recommendation.
Nat Green.
Support the recommendation.
Vincent.
Support the officer's recommendation.
Paul Wynn.
Support the officer's recommendation.
And Edward Towers.
Support the officer's recommendation.
So that's
Okay.
It's gone with the officer's recommendation. Okay, moving on to item 7. No, hang on, sorry, item 6.
Yeah.
Fisherman's Way. Would you like to leave for 11, please? Just give it a couple of seconds before we start. So that's the
Yeah.
Good. You're presenting this?
Me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Philip Molyneux, presenting this application. This application proposes the erection of a rear single-storey extension at a dwelling known as 8 Fitzpin Way, Wem. There are no updates in this item. The application is presented to committee because, as you're aware, it's a member application and therefore needs committee consideration in accordance with the council's constitution. The site location plan outlined in red there, showing the dwelling within it. Floor plans and the proposed rear single-storey extension and the flat, which is a single-storey here. It is on a rear single-storey extension onto the detached 2-storey dwelling. There it is outlined in red, and rear garden. Existing elevations, what looks like to be a 4-bedroom detached dwelling. And these are the proposed elevations indicating the single story across the rear elevation here. And that's the floor plans. And then some photographs of the existing dwelling. This is the elevation on which the single story extension will be attached. View of the garden and the boundary with the neighbours and the hedge on the other side. With no adverse comments, the application is considered straightforward and the recommendation is approval subject to conditions as outlined in Appendix 1 attached to the report. That concludes my presentation of this application to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to propose we go the officer recommendation.
Yeah, I'm happy to second it. I kind of wish we'd seen something a bit similar to this in the previous application, but I think, to be honest with you, the reason that this is here is because it's a member of a different faith. I don't feel there's any issues with it, so I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Any more comments? I'm going to just have a show of hands. Show of hands. All in favour? Thank you. I was a bit sick. So actually, younger legs.
Not much.
So, I'm nearly the oldest.
So it's like it's gone very nicely.
I hope we got planning permission from the small girl.
Why did he seem to have more bins than everybody else? Why he's got so many bins?
More bins than everybody else.
Thank you, Edward. Yeah, there were some comments about them. I wouldn't spy you. And a separate brand now.
Why have you got more bins than everybody else?
Somebody like to come round and help to tidy up.
Right. Moving on.
Thank you,
Not being recorded. Okay. Item 7, land adjacent to Britain. Come on. Presenting Philip, are you?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you. Yeah. This application proposes changing use of non-domestic area, which is currently agricultural land, into domestic area for parking and turning, together with a new vehicle access on land adjacent to Bryn, Rossygamba, Gabowen. There are no updates on the update sheet. However, I do have a verbal update as a result of email communications this morning, as a result of consultations with Shropshire Council's Ecology, which has concluded that the application needs small sites metric completed in accordance with DEFRA's small sites metric statutory biodiversity metric user guide. As such, it's a change to the recommendation is required to include as a delegated decision to office, to delegate to officers subject to satisfactory BNG requirements being satisfied, that is biodiversity net gain. Unfortunately, our ecologists only came to us on this matter mid-morning this morning, but I don't consider it's something that should hold the application up. It's something that the applicants will be, in my opinion, easily addressed. We've also recently received this morning a further letter of support from a member of the public, which indicates that the proposal will overall lead to public highway safety improvements from that of the current situation, and the person welcomed the application. The application is presented to committee as the Parish Council have raised material reasons as outlined in paragraph 4.11 of the officer's report. It must also be noted a previous application for change of use was refused permission in accordance with the council scheme of delegation, as set out in section 1 of the officer's report, and the Parish Council have maintained the recommendation of refusal to this application, as it did in fact to 2 previous ones. So there's been 2 previous refusals, and it was for a much larger area than that as proposed. However, we've come in now with amended plans, having discussed it further with officers, and I'm pleased to say that the officers are now able to support this application. I'll now run through the site plan. Obviously, the first one is the location plan indicating the area, hatched red. That's the area outlined in red again, with the proposed access, new access there, which takes us further from the road junction. Block plan showing the site, and obviously the site area around it is in the applicant's control, as outlined in blue. That was what the previous change of use was for. To the previous applications, as you can see, a much bigger area. It also included a proposed garage that has been withdrawn from the current application also. And then these are photographs of the area adjacent to the application site. Clearly, the current application is a change of use of a much smaller area, and the proposal now considered acceptable by officers. As I've indicated, the previous applications were a much larger area, which included construction of a garage. The Shropshire Council Highways have raised no objections, and public highway matters, as discussed in section 3 of the officer's report, are considered acceptable. In conclusion, on balance, this latest application for the change of use is considered acceptable and much more proportionate to the existing curtilage, and overall will lead to a betterment in terms of overall public highway safety. The recommendation is one of delegated to officers for approval subject to conditions as set out in Appendix 1 attached to this report, plus a condition to remove permitted development rights, as otherwise the garage that was proposed in the previous applications, if built in the correct place, would be permitted development. So officers are recommending the permitted development rights are only removed from the area of land subject to this application. And also, as discussed earlier, satisfactory consideration to biodiversity net gain. And that concludes my presentation of this application, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. We have 2 statements, one against, one for, which solicitor will read out. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we've got a statement from Salatin and Gabowen Parish Council, which says Salatin and Gabowen Parish Council opposed the application due to the area that was requested for car parking being excessive for a domestic residence with no commercial on-site activity. Many houses park 3 or 4 cars on an average sized driveway. The 440 metre squared in this application is the size of a building plot, which seems out of kilter for a purely domestic situation. A close look at the planning history shows numerous attempts to push the boundaries. In short, it is incremental development. If the planning committee decides to support this application, Salatin and Gabowen Parish Council request the following planning conditions. A native hedge is established along the western and southern boundaries of the application site to delineate the proposed domestic area from the agricultural area to maintain and enhance countryside vitality and character. B, its use is for domestic purposes only. And C, permitted development rights are removed from this area to maintain and enhance countryside vitality and character. And then the second one is from Mr. Mike Davis, applicant, and that reads, the application is for a proposed change of use of a small piece of agricultural land, some 20 by 20 metres in area, into domestic to enable it to come within the domestic curtilage of the Bryn. A new access location also forms part of this application, and this has been positioned closer to the outbuildings as previously advised. The Highways Agency support the proposed repositioning of the vehicular access on safety grounds as it is further away from a dangerous corner. Local people have also made their views known and support this application. The Parish Council refer to the area of land being applied for as being out of proportion, but I fail to see how an area of 20 by 20 metres can be classed out of proportion when comparing it to the land in ownership of the Bryn. I fail to understand why the Parish Council are raising objections to this application, contrary to the recommendation of the Council's planning officer. The Parish Council have previously objected to the access being repositioned at this site, and therefore it is clear that they do not take on board professional advice of their planning and highways officers, but without sound reason for doing so. I ask the committee to support and approve this application.
Thank you, Ken. I want the floor, but Vince indicated first. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, for me, this is a case of somebody who has put in previous applications and then started to listen to our officers. I am going to support this. In fact, I'm actually going to move that we accept this with the. Didn't understand all the metrics things and everything else to start with, but I'm going to support this on the ground that I think it makes entering and leaving the property considerably safer. I think Philip did say that there would be a removal of permitted development rights on it, which I think is essential because I wouldn't want to see, as the parish council, too concerned about a slow building creep taking place. I think the removal of permitted development rights would stop that because any applications on there would then have to come before officers or members if that was the decision that was taken. I don't think it's an issue. I'd like to hear, I believe that the existing ingress and egress is being sealed off. I'm interested as to whether we can meet the request for a native hedge to be planted. I don't think it'll make a lot of difference, to be honest, in screening or not screening, but if it helps the parish council be more accepting of it, I'm not necessarily sure that would be a bad thing. But yes, I'm going to move that we support this because I think on the grounds of highway safety and it's a small area, I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Do you want to make
as it happens, I only saw the parish council's comments this morning, but all the matters in there are addressed. There's landscaping is a condition. As far as permitted development rights, although I recommend taking away, there's only a small piece of it they could build it on because a lot of it would be in front of the front building line of the dwelling, so they wouldn't have permission for over 60% of the site. In any case, it's in front of the building line of the dwelling. However, there is the back corner. And it's usual practice when somebody puts in for extension to the domestic curtilage of agricultural land, and we do take away PD in any case. So I'm more than happy with what the parish council said, and I consider all their concerns have been addressed.
Thank you.
Can I just say my proposal does include also the request from our ecologist to do that survey, which isn't in there, but I'd like that included.
Yes, well, my recommendation to members when I did the presentation was that subject to satisfactory biodiversity net gain. I think it's a relative, as members be aware, this is a relatively new thing and it has caused some confusion amongst various participants in the planning process.
Thank you now.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to oppose this, but two things that if you could call up the photograph of the panoramic shot of the crossed sides. That's fine. There's no condition protecting that tree. That's a significant tree, and they're going to be coming in on the next to there.
It's a weeping willow.
Sorry,
it is weeping.
It's weeping. We'll be weeping even more if they do that. And the other thing is I'd like to see a condition specifying that it is a permeable hard standing. The last thing we want is a great big swathe of black tarmac across there. What with flooding and climate change and all that. So if officers are happy to take on board those two conditions, tree protection and the hard standing surfacing, I'm happy to support this application.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I take on board what you said about the hard standing surface. That could be included in the landscaping condition number 4. And I know from quite extensive past experience that willow tree would be classed as a low ecological valued tree. However, again, we've got the landscaping plan, and also there's biodiversity net gain required here. So we need to see what to come back with that to start with. But I just warning you at this stage, a tree of that variety is considered low in ecological value.
It's a very attractive tree.
I'm not passing comment.
Okay, are you happy to take up what Nat's
Yeah,
on
yes.
board? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So am I as a proposer.
Happy?
Yeah, well, I'll second that one.
Right.
Just on the matter of trees, yes, you're right, Philip, as I understand that the case as well. But I think landscaping, I think if that tree has to go, if it could be somewhere in the your articles that a tree, a suitable tree is added back, that would be the way around that one, I think. So I think it is good to have those trees around. It would help biodiversity net gain.
Need to replace them.
Well, if you notice in the photograph, the boundary hedge where the willow tree is a laurel hedge. We'd want to see more native type species, so that would be controlled. So there would be an overall net gain. I feel it would be difficult to. I can't say at this stage whether that tree is going to be retained or not. But even if it wasn't, it would be difficult, in my opinion, to defend its retention. It will depend on what the landscaping detail, which is subject to condition 4, is brought forward. And we would certainly be looking for a more native type boundary hedge, because obviously the other side is the road. And at the moment, there is a laurel hedge there, which, in my opinion, is of low ecological value.
Oh, and a replacement tree.
Yes, we would be looking at that. And if the tree was to go, most certainly. Yes.
On the edge somewhere.
And we'd be looking for something of more ecological value. Yeah. Yes, laurel all along, isn't it? The hedge.
Probably. So what you're saying is that because it's not attached as a
well, laurel isn't in keeping with rural character.
Laurel, we're talking about weeping willow. Really.
Oh, the weeping willow. Well, I've requested that you delegate it to officers because of the biodiversity net gain. We've got the landscaping plan. Once the biodiversity net gain is finalised, we can adjust the landscaping plan then accordingly to ensure we get a betterment here in in ecological value, which is what biodiversity net gain is all about in any case.
Hedge. It's a long hedge.
Yeah, I was just going to, I was just going to echo that point that I think all the concerns are to do with, the nature of the habitat and the biodiversity net gain. We'll cover that, and whether that means that tree stays or it's replaced with something else, whatever. I think we can trust the ecology office to come up with a plan which actually gives us net gain, which is what we want.
Yeah. Happy with that now? Not really. You right? Okay, I think we can just do that. Okay, well, I think we've got for show of hands.
Yeah, we just check we've got the motion right.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, so I've got
Right,
delegation to officers, subject to the conditions set out in the report, removal of permitted development rights, and subject to the BNG biodiversity net gain measures being satisfactorily obtained.
Yes.
By the ecologist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy with that? Are you happy?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, we'll go for show of hands, I think, on this one. All those in favour of the officer recommendation? Unanimous.
Okay.
Okay. 40 by me. Okay, so now you go to appeals, the appeals decisions. Any debates on the appeals? You know the few who's gone against the officers here. Roger?
The comment is I feel there's 7 supported and 4 not supported. So it's a surprising result. So over 60% went with the people making the appeals.
I think it's the other way around. I think it's 40%.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's all I can say.
Yes, disappointing as it is. One of them is actually in the local members just walking through the door now. At the Ford Airfield, I'm not convinced by I'm not happy with the inspector's decision on that one, I must admit. It was retrospective on Ford Airfield, which was classed as the brownfield site. It does go farm crops on. And unfortunately, the inspector came to a different conclusion. And then I'm aware of a second one which stands out at Shrewsbury, where there was mixed views amongst officers. And so the service manager got involved, and obviously we went along with her. But on this occasion, she's been proved to be a little bit wrong. No doubt she's not here today, but I'm sure she's listening in.
You'll find out.
I'm sure I will.
Sure that.
But it's the inspector on that one came to a different conclusion. But I will, yes, there was mixed views on that one amongst officers, but we listened, and the service manager site made a decision, and we respected that decision. Unfortunately, it wasn't shared by the inspector.
Thank you, Philip. So, right, so now, no more comments on that. Moving to item 9, the inclusion of the public and to go off street. So just give us a sec while we do that.
Do we need to vote?